AI art updates, Nvidia, Hugging Face, and first of all, we have an upcoming workshop, well, a series of 4 sessions that we're doing on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific in April, starting April 3rd. Oh, the time is wrong on the newsletter and the blog. It should be 9 a.m. Pacific. Marikar, you're looking. um, and so we're kicking that off next Thursday, and we're going over the 4D process to help people actually walk away with um, an automation or a custom agent, depending on what you choose to do as your project. We're going to walk you through defining workflows and SOPs and identifying all the parts and pieces that you need to put together, help you choose the tools and put something together that you can then use in your business. So we're going to do the 4D process in 4 weeks, starting April 3rd, 9 a.m. Pacific. And we've got some signups for that. We do still have some room if anybody wants to join. We have a lot of people on the wait list for this one. I'm excited to do the 4D process. In other news this week, Anthropic, so it's still coming soon, but they have announced that they are going to have voice mode in Claude. So for all of you Claude lovers, soon you're going to be able to talk to it with your voice, not just talk to it and have voice to text. As a lot of people have been doing with ChatGPT, that's something that Claude's been kind of behind on. And ChatGPT has been doing it for over a year. So they're coming out with it. We don't know when. But I know a lot of people are using it for brainstorming and walk and talks. And for people who are dyslexic, it's super helpful for coming up with ideas, taking notes, doing all the things that physical writing or typing has been kind of a barrier for them. And I think it's a major loss in federal courts this last week. They ruled that purely AI generated works cannot be copyrighted. I think this may change, but this is the first ruling on AI generated art. And I think we talked about this last week. There's a project up at UBC in British Columbia in Canada where artists are getting their own large language models and training them on their art styles. And so I imagine the art that comes from those particular LLMs may be able to be more protected, and it's still to be determined. Because if we think about digital and graphic design, we've been using this artificial kind of graphic design that everybody has access to create works of art, and we could own that intellectual property. And now that there's I think that there's still got to be something that you could protect in what you create, because what you are able to make AI do, and it's probably some combination of AI and Photoshop or some of the other tools, what Marikar can make it do is different than what I can make it do, is what is different than what Andrea could make it do. So I think there's got to be something in there. We keep an eye on AI and art and a lot of these cases that have been going on for the last couple of years. So I think it's disappointing that you wouldn't be able to have ownership or copyright. And maybe there are parameters where it has to come from your own LLM that will come out in the future. And the laws are going to evolve as technology evolves. Nvidia has some news. They acquired Gretel for synthetic data. And synthetic data trains AI on fake data. And the deal is estimated to be over $320 million. And the big players with Microsoft, Meta are also jumping into this synthetic data training to train AI systems so that they can get around the real world data limitations. So this is kind of in the ether of what you could imagine. And they're saying that by incorporating Gretel's capabilities, Nvidia is going to dominate even more of the generative AI services for developers. So again, we'll see what happens when that when both companies merge and come out with some new products. Hugging Face is pushing for open source. They are making a big open source push when it comes to US AI policies. Now, they've submitted a blueprint for advocating on behalf of open source AI as part of the White House's upcoming AI action plan. Hugging Face's argument is that open source models could outpace proprietary systems in innovation because they are more inclusive and more cost efficient. So with the tensions high between big tech and these smaller open source players, Hugging Face is positioning itself as a champion for democratizing AI development. And it could be America's secret edge to the global AI race, because we have other countries, Singapore, China, where we have products coming out with a lot lower budgets that have been more fully developed. And open source means that other people can develop the product too. And if you go into Hugging Face, it's kind of a hot mess, but Hugging Face has you can go on there and you'll see there are different models of there are different large language models or AI models that are built to do really specific things. And Hugging Face has a huge community developing. And so, if you are crowdsourcing all of this development, it could develop faster and outpace a single company doing it. Even if the company has tens of thousands of employees, if you have hundreds of thousands or millions of people around the world who have access to develop, it's going to go faster and bring more innovation and not be kept in a smaller thought parameter also that's associated with particular companies. Because, if I say Apple, you have a very clear idea of what Apple is in your head. Or if I say Microsoft, you also have a very clear idea of that. Hugging Face, not so much. I think for most people, unless you've been in this, deep in the weeds with AI, but they serve so many different purposes because it's a community developing. And I had this conversation with a colleague, an Australian colleague in Bali, and we were discussing the different models and why we would choose to use some of the different models over others. And we were looking at open source, we were looking at DeepSeek, and there are things to consider, because if you're using something like DeepSeek, even if it's kind of cloud hosted and protected, the data could be accessed by the Chinese government. If you're using something that's based in the US, ChatGPT, that can be accessed by the US government. The US government can go in and get the data. So then there's choosing, which tool we want to start with. And then maybe we want to host our own LLM on our own server. And once we understand what it's going to take to train it fully, because once we have all that training information, we can take it to our own supercomputer, like a little $3,000 Nvidia supercomputer. We actually run our own model and train our own model in-house where nobody else has access to that data. There's some big speculation in the US right now about how the data is going to be used, the way that the current administration is. And there